Hey guys, this is Tolly and welcome to Let's Build a JRPG Part 10. Last time we left off, we were basically polishing up the attack sequence. So when we perform an attack on a character, we got the lighting to dim on everything else, brighten up the characters, and then we also got a particle effect playing on the enemy. Most of this stuff needs to be design driven. We need to put it into our spreadsheet so that each attack has its own special effect, but there's also a series of other things we need to do. Like right now, everything we do just does damage to the enemy, so we kind of need to hook up some of those ability states before we maybe get into hooking up the particles for them. But at the very least, we got something that's looking a bit cleaner. Like having walked away for a couple days now since the last stream and looking at this now, I'm happy with it as it is. I think it definitely represents at least the direction we're trying to go for, which is pretty nice. It may not be the final version, but definitely indicates the way we'd like to go. Hey, Super Gamer Rob, welcome to the stream. There we go. There's chat. Chat showing up today. That's good. So where are we going today? What are we up to? So I haven't had a lot of time to think about this project. I've been working a fair amount of overtime on real life and real job stuff. Well, not real life, but real programming stuff. So I haven't had a ton of time to think about this, but last time we left off, actually the time before last time, we had called out that we wanted to do damage effects, visualizing HP, and more types of abilities. That seems reasonable. I think we could probably start there, mostly because I don't entirely know how we're going to get the damage effect. So the first one there, so I've done some screen space to UI stuff in the past, but I haven't had to write that code in a while, and usually you write it one time for a project and then it just works for the rest of the project. Essentially, we need to figure out how we're going to get it so that when we're looking at the game from the camera's point of view, which will be this one here, we're going to want to figure out where in the world this character is in relation to the UI camera so that we can display text on this display here. So we're going to have to convert from world space to screen space. So that seems like some pretty good words to start with at the very least. Unity screen space to canvas space? No. World space to canvas space. All right, here we go. We've got this question. Let's see what this says. I really need some help. I'm trying to get camera.world to screen point. It's got me completely lost. It was the anchors. Okay. So it sounds like this is just what we need. How did they write their code? Camera.main.world to viewpoint. Given a world object, we'll give a vec2. And then they're taking that vec2, timesing it by, well, this code may not be super great to look at considering it was bugged, but they're essentially just doing this. So we could start here and see what we're getting out of it, and then maybe start positioning elements on the screen based off that. And then we can kind of move it around. Hey, welcome to the stream. Would Ave, I don't think I've tried to pronounce your name recently. It's Nomer. I'm going to go with Nomer. It's easier. All right. So we're going to copy this camera.main. Wonder how we know that. Well, we want to just reference the camera directly, to be honest. Let's continue to hard code things. I haven't had a chance to go back and tweak some of the things from last time. I'd like to change the way these lighting controllers work. Right now we have two different lighting controllers that basically do the same thing. I'd actually like to change this around. There's some stuff I'd like to do in the states that I'd like to play with, but I'll probably do a lot of that off camera. So for now, let's continue to just hard code in some of this stuff, and then I'll figure out the way I want to do it properly at some point off camera in between streams. What am I looking for? I am looking for the states. Where do we keep our states? Okay, I'm just going to go in through here. I want to go to the ability state manager, and I want to go to actually resolve effect. Here's where I want I want to grab the camera. I'm not entirely sure if we can write camera.main the same way, because I'm not sure which one of our cameras is main. I guess it would be this one. Is there, how do you tell which camera is the main? Oh, they're all tagged with main camera. That's probably bad. Let's untag this guy. So this one's the main camera. That's probably how it's determining it. I'm gonna guess. All right, main camera dot camera.main world to viewport world object. So what the world object we want to grab is the monster, like so. Target ID, we need to do this. Okay. Okay, so we can convert a world position dot transform dot position. We want the world position, not the local position. And this will drop out a vector that we should be able to use to position something. To start seeing how we... Well, where do we want the damage effect to be? For the time being, I think we could just add it to the units. Let's go into the unit factory and let's make it so that monsters, well, everyone should do this, but for now we'll make it so we're going to want to instantiate an object here. Again, I'm not super thrilled about the way I'm writing this code, but it will do for the time being. Right now, we are working towards damage effect text. So we're trying to convert the enemy's position in the world into canvas space so that we can display an object. Actually, as I talk through this, I realize this isn't going to work the way I want it to. We need to build a pool manager. That's kind of the... Okay. I have not written one of these before. So basically I want to get damage effects flying off, but we also need to be able to have a pool manager for a couple other things we want. And I think we've just hit a hard impasse where I really just need to build one of these because it's a pretty fundamental thing that'll make our life a lot easier. I think I'll try and build it from scratch. And then if I fail at that, we might go look at the Liquid Fire blog posts, because I'm pretty sure somewhere in his Tactics RPG he builds a pool manager. So if we need reference, we can go look there. But I think I'm just going to try and build one myself. So yeah, we're going to try and... So, quick prefix. What a pool manager is essentially when we create objects in the game, we're going to want to create a prefab. So I'm going to go into UI camera. At some point, we're going to want to have a UI text mesh pro. We're going to want to have some sort of damage effect. It's going to be bold. Maybe we add an outline around it. That's like that. Oh, that's affecting all of the materials. Can I just duplicate this? Bold. Or I guess technically it's not a bold, it's outline. So we're going to want to have this thing here. The outline version will have an outline. This will say minus 100 or something along those lines. And we're going to want this to, doesn't look great here, but we're essentially going to want this thing to fly off of the enemy. So if we hit play, if we hit play, if we fix the errors in the code that we wrote. The reason we can't just instantiate this here on the unit is that we actually need it somewhere inside of the canvas, not on the unit itself. I mean, we could still probably instantiate it inside the unit, but I think this is a better way to do it. Okay, so now if I hit play, I can explain what I'm trying to do. So we're going to want... we're going to want it so that when this guy gets hit by damage, this guy gets hit, and then that flies up and also probably fades away. When we do that, we really want to be able to have it so that this unit doesn't hold on to it. In a great world, we have it so that there's like 10 of these damage effects, or maybe 5, 10, I'm not sure how many, but we create a number of them when we load the scene. And then anytime that we need them, there's a manager that handles that pool of damage effects, and we can call on it and be like, hey, I'd like to allocate one of these damage effects, and I'd like to spawn it here. And then that thing essentially just takes one of these objects that we'll have like 5 of them under that manager. We'll turn it on. Once it gets turned on, we play the effect on it or whatever, and then once it's done, it deallocates itself and turns itself back off and tells the manager, hey, I'm available to be used again in the future. So rather than instantiating these objects over and over and over again, we're just making a whole bunch of them, and then whenever we need one, the pool manager will be in charge of giving us one that isn't currently in use. So that's what we're trying to establish. So I guess first off, we need a simple prefab. So let's just make this text. No, I don't want to just make it the text. I want to create an empty object. This empty object will be at 0, 0 for now. And then this can be damage effect. And then this thing will have damage text under it. And then this will exist inside of the prefab folder. Okay. Now we need to build a class or a pool manager that is in charge of this stuff. Where do we want to put that? Under scripts, editors? No, let's make a new folder. Common. And then this folder here, we're going to want to make a game object pool manager. Sure. Let's go with that. Oh, what's going on with chat? Okay. Okay. I got your chat's broken. All right. I don't care about your chat, Rob. That's fine. This is all right. Okay, cool. Let's move on. So we've got Unity reopening Visual Studio because I still haven't found a way to stop it from doing that. So is this thing a mono behavior? Probably, but I think it's singleton mono behavior. I think it's also templated. Can we go look at our data storage system? Because I think it's going to need to work somewhat similarly to how we set that up. So this thing took a templated, and then it was a basic singleton, but we don't want it to be a basic singleton. We actually want it to be just a singleton. Because we want it to be a mono behavior, I think. And then this is not that, this is this. Okay, so now we have a game object type. All right. Well, now chat has stopped working. Well, now it seems to be fixed. So let's see. We've got game object. Manager will take a templated type. I don't think it needs to take a templated type. I think it needs to take a game object. What are we doing? We're going to have this thing here instantiate objects for us. Okay, let's start with that. So we're going to need a reference to... I don't think we need all that nonsense. I think it's simply just... This thing will contain a list. So the reason we need the templatation is okay. Here's the part that's getting me a little bit. Is that we want to be able to have one class, one singleton that we reuse for multiple different prefabs. So we don't want to just be able to have like one game object manager and be like, hey, this is the one game object manager, and it has like hundreds of different references. Okay. That seems to be working now. We don't want to have a list inside of this game object manager for every single different type of object that we want to pool. We instead want to have it so that we can templatize this. Okay. I'm going to tap out. We're going to go take a look at Liquidfire blogs, and we're going to save a little bit of time of just doing a small amount of research. Pool. He has a 3-part section on it. Object pooling. Kind of running through all of this stuff, quickly trying to peruse and get my head wrapped around what we're actually trying to build. It's not exactly how I want to build it. All right. Tap back in. So what do we need? We need a list. I know, so he used a dictionary, so it would be faster lookup times for some of this stuff, but I don't think we need it right this second. So we're going to have type 2. If we do it this way, it means that every game object is not going to be where. Does that work? Rob, you're a little more familiar with some of this syntax stuff, I feel like. I'm going to just keep typing. All right, so public. We're going to make a list, which is going to be m pooled Objects. Ah. What we're doing by saying where T is a mono behavior, manager is templated of this type where T colon. I was thinking is, but it's colon. There we go, because my brain equates the colon and the is the same thing. All right, so now what we're saying here is that we are going to have a templated object, and this is going to be a singleton. It's going to inherit from singleton, and then where T is a mono behavior. So with this, we can now say, okay, each time we make a new object that needs to be pooled, it will need to have its own script, which is kind of unfortunate, but maybe we can find a better way to class or to refactor this in the future. But it will have its own script, and we expect that script to be a mono behavior. Okay, so then I don't know if that really matters to me right now, but I'm gonna try. So I think I want that logic. This way we can treat these things as mono behaviors and it'll just work. Like we'll have access to transform and position and all that type of nonsense in here if we need it, and set activity. So now we have a list of pooled objects. I don't think we need update or start for us, which then makes me wonder if really this needs to be this could instead just be a simple singleton. Is that what we called it? What was the basic? This could probably just be a basic singleton if we don't need update. Instead, we have public void initialize. I feel like I'm spelling that wrong, and I am. Okay, and then initialize is going to take in a count. Sorry, this is a more thinky thing. Maybe I should have done something like this off camera, but like there's some thought process involved here. So the thing I have a thought. Can you do templating mono behaviors? I guess it's not templating, it's generics. This is back to the same thing before. I guess we have to... Okay, so sorry, yeah, so here's my thinking. Rob, good point, vocalize more. My thought process is that I would like this thing to be a mono behavior, but I'm trying to figure out if there's a way for me to make it a mono behavior in which it is templatized. So if we go create empty, and then we add this, oh no, we have, okay, let's fix our errors by hitting save, I think. We should be fine now. And then we add the I want to have the type of prefab it holds be generic. I think. But I don't think I can do that. This makes it a mono behavior if we do this. Because if we do it this way, we don't have to add, like, if I make it a basic singleton, it means that every single game object that we want to create has to be hard-coded somewhere. Whereas if we can get it so that the game object pool manager can be on a mono behavior, we can just add more game object pools to the scene with the prefab that we want to access. But I don't think the system in Unity works that way, but maybe that's... Maybe we tackle this a different way. So we don't templatize it. We just call this game objects. And then it takes a game object, which is a prefab. I've seen someone do this before. So the reason that this doesn't work is that if we do it this way, then if I make a second one of these, then we have 2 singletons. Now we have 3 singletons. That doesn't work. So the thought process here was in the same way that if we look at data storage, we can have multiple data storages that have, like each of these data storage take in a templated class. And because of that, they're technically different data storage singletons. They're not the same singleton. They use the same code. But what I'm trying to get at is for this game manager pool, I kind of want a singleton, a templatized singleton in the same way that it takes a type in. Game object is not a valid game. Yeah, it's a complicated thing, Rob. Like, it's fun. I don't know if I can even do it. But I feel like I've seen this somewhere in my past 8 years that someone has done this before. Someone maybe slightly smarter than I. Let's go back to that again. If we do this, does this break? Does it fall off because it can no longer be a valid mono behavior? If we remove it and then delete the other versions of it, can we add it back? No. Because it's no longer a valid mono behavior. But that post we were looking at here, were they trying to do some? No, they were doing singleton stuff. I guess I want to make a Unity generic Sometimes it needs get object returns object as T. Yeah, the problem though that each of these would not be considered different singleton instances. Or would they? What's up, Rob? You think you got it figured out? Because I would be interested in seeing it. Because these are all revolving around just singletons, but it's an interesting problem because I think the question is, can we have a singleton structure like data storage in which we have multiple singletons that are all templatized to be different types of objects so that they themselves are not clashing? So we can have, for example, we bring in a game object. This game object is the particle 1 pool, and then we have particle 2, particle 3. We create multiple different pools, but we could access them each as a singleton. Not if they themselves are mono behaviors. So if we want to add them to the scene, then we can't have them also be singletons in the way that I'm thinking. They would each need to be their own object manager. Okay. Not templatized. Okay, so then we grab this, get rid of that. We keep it as a singleton. It itself is a mono behavior singleton. Float count. No, integer. Public int object count. Well, so no, I think we do it this way now. Oh wait, well we can't have it be a singleton. Never mind. So then we just make this thing a mono behavior. If I can't get this thing to work with a singleton, I think the better approach is that we set it up as a mono behavior. And then I'm going to write something else that's going to manage all these pools for us. This is a more roundabout way of doing it, but it should work. So, this is no longer going to be a game object pool manager. This is going to be a game object pool. I didn't want Visual Studio to open. Please go away. Well, so we're going to go one level up, Rob. So we're going to go object count, prefab, pooled objects. That can be public, I suppose. Okay, so now we have this. Then we're going to actually make the game object pool manager, which will be a separate class entirely. Game object pool manager. I actually think I'm going to do it in reverse, Rob. So I think the way I'm going to do this now is instead there will be a game pool manager, which will be a singleton of game object pool manager. And then this thing will contain a list of pools. And this should be a dictionary. Okay. Okay, this thing's a singleton. So what we can do... I'm sorry, I'm thinking about loading sequences. I need to vocalize more. So, okay, so here's what we're doing. I'm getting lost in my own head a little bit. So we want to now, so we have a game object pool manager. That thing's a singleton. It has a dictionary lookup of pools. Inside of those pools are going to be a list of game objects, which will be the objects that we want to access, manipulate, spawn, all that nonsense. So once we have this set up, we need to have it so each of these, which are mono behaviors, we're going to use the start function, are going to call start, and they're going to register themselves with the pool manager instance. And then we need to write a register function. So this thing here is going to have a public void register function, register, and it will pass in a reference to the game object pool. And it will also maybe so now my thought is, how do we reference these things? So we want to have some sort of way of looking up these pools. So if I have a particle effect that we want to play, we're going to need some sort of way of knowing which particle effect that is. So I assume that these pools are going to need to pass in what their ID is to the system. Just for symmetry, we'll probably pass in ID, then a reference to the pool. And then I suppose the ID could simply be whatever the name of the particle that we're registering is. Because basically we want to spawn these things, but not everything's going to have an ID. For the text effects, we won't have one, because they won't be something that's necessarily like a particle that'll be pooled in. So you might be right, Rob, that we might just need a static list of pools or ints for the IDs for the time being. It feels sloppy. I feel like I'm missing something, but we can always refactor later. I keep saying that, and we can keeping that that can always be true. We can always come back if we find a better way. If I look it up on my own time or like off camera, then we can maybe find a better way of doing it, and then we can come back and revisit this. For now, this will work, and this will get us up and running. Okay, so each of these objects on start is going to register itself with the game object pool, and it's going to pass in, for the time being anyways, we're going to have a public int. We're going to have public string ID, and then that ID is we're going to continue to use animator dot string to hash, and then we're going to pass in this as the other reference, and so this should get passed in. The one problem, well, that's not a big deal. One thing I want to look up quickly is the difference between start and awake. There's two functions in Unity, and they kind of do slightly different things. And I want to see what the differences are. Usually awake is used for initialization. It's certain variables and scripts are dependent on each other, would cause errors if they one of them is initialized too late. Awake runs before the game starts. Awake is also called only once every script instance. Start is called on the frame which the script is enabled just before any update methods is called the first time. Like awake, start is called exactly one lifetime. However, awake is called the script when the script object is initialized, regardless of whether or not the script is enabled. Okay, that's what I want. So even if we accidentally turn off the scripts, we want awake so that this thing will get called. Sorry, Nomer. This is all about playing particles and about attack effects. So sorry that like I've been lost myself in part of this. I think we're on the road to just being able to show what we're working on though. But it's been a process of trying to figure out exactly how I want to do this, which has been a bit of a thought bubble or a thought think tank. So Rob makes a good point that we probably want to be able to identify these objects by their names regardless of it's really the referencing part that's still evading me. But for the time being, we're going to do it like this. And then we can create a const class somewhere as well. Okay. So we are registering these objects with the game object pool. We register them. Once we have them registered, they still need to get initialized. Oh God. We need to look at the loading manager. I knew this was coming, but I'm kind of dreading it. So we kind of need to have this thing handle the actual initialization of a lot of this stuff. This gets called on start, great. So because the other stuff is getting called on awake, it'll happen first. So we'll register everything with this manager. Then we're gonna wanna have a initialize all pools. I haven't lost track of your final int conversation, Rob. I'm gonna build this out first and then we'll see where we land on this. So we got pool objects. We're gonna need to initialize each of these pool objects. And then public. Okay, then this is initializing. Right, we have to for each of these. I'm referencing the dictionary, not an individual one. Yep, I know, I got there slowly. Value set. Key value pair, that's what I'm looking for. Int game object pool key value pair in M. I'm slightly off on the keyboard, move keyboard over slightly. And then for each of these key value pairs, we want to initialize. That's still not right. Rename a couple variables. Okay, okay. All right. So we're going to initialize all of our pools. And then we're going to need another function, which is basically going to ask whether or not all of our pools are done initializing. So public void all is initialization is initialize complete. There we go. That will work. And now this is going to have to do the same thing, except in here we can look at the character manager, because the character manager does this already. Combat character manager. This thing creates a whole bunch of models, and then it checks is character done loading, which is checking all the characters to see if they're done loading. Okay, so we need to do something similar except better. And this thing here is calling async internally to spawn the prefab, and then it calls on load done. Okay. Technically need this. All right. So we'll do some sort of initialize on some sort of thing. We'll create an onload. That onload will then set mloaded is true. And then we can kind of check these things to see if mloaded is true. The problem with this, and the thing we're going to run to, is if okay, so here's the thing. Unlike character model, we are not simply instantiating one prefab. Each of these pools needs to have multiple things that it initializes. So we are not going to go, hey, prefab, I'm not even sure that we reference a prefab here. Normally, I'm used to in Unity, you would do initialize. I guess we could just do initialize, but I feel like addressables is the future. I feel like we should do this with addressables. What's the call for addressables that we need? Using addressable assets. Addressable stot merge mode? No. We can, Rob, you're right, that's slightly better. So I will say that normally I prefer to do it the way I wrote it because it tends to be better often. I don't know, I'm not going to get into it, but I tend to write it the way I am, but I'm not going to fight about it. We can just change it for now. So then we can What if we didn't use addressables for this? We could just instantiate the objects this way. Just working through the process here, because normally I would do this in most situations, where we would do the object count, which should have an M underscore in front of it, being terrible at my own naming convention. That's why that wasn't showing up a moment ago. Okay, so there we go. So we could do it this way instead, and this is fine. But this might be the addressable system is nicer, because then we can change what a reference is from like an asset bundle somewhere, and we can kind of like do some magic stuff that's really cool with addressables. But I think for our purposes, we don't really need this magic right this second. The more I write this stuff, the more I realize that maybe this doesn't need to be a mono behavior, and maybe this really should just be a straight class. And if that's the case, then we can... We will need to have a way to tell whether or not the objects are in use or not, which will be probably something along the lines of this. At which point, anytime I see a double list, I am more inclined to just build a class that holds those two variables. Just tends to be safer. Yeah, Rob, same page. We do object. It contains a game object. This is just the thing. This is just the object. And then there is the bool, which is in use, which is defaulted to false, I suppose. I'm going to make a constructor, because otherwise I know Rob is going to yell at me. I didn't want to add a new breakpoint function. Game object. That's not what I wanted. Nope. Stop it. There we go. I had to click twice, apparently. Bool in use. It's not that I didn't know how they work, Rob. I just choose not to use them. Okay. Okay, and then we can set this to this and this to this. We're just writing code now. Code is coming along. We make a new game object pool in which we instantiate the game object and set... Actually, we don't even need to pass this in. We can just always set it to false, because something else should be in charge of setting whether or not this thing is in use the moment that we actually try and use it. What are you upset about? Member names cannot be of the same as the... There. It's a constructor. Stop yelling. All right, cool. So then we instantiate this way. Sorry, so we went into this whole, like, but you kind of got me on a sidetrack, Rob, a little bit, that this thing needed to be telling if it's in use, but we still kind of come into this conclusion on whether a thing should be addressable or whether a thing should be pooled. I snap well, I think. All right. Man, I've been avoiding this for a while, and there is a reason. There is a reason I've been avoiding this. All right, so instead of this information being here, I think that we... Okay, let's talk through this. The reason that I want this thing to be a mono behavior so bad is for the simple reason that then I can add these objects to the scene, and I can have a series of different objects in here. I get that, Rob. It's to get this thing working, but yeah, I suppose. Part of the reason that I wanted to do these tutorials, or not tutorials, these like let's build things, is because I really want to try and get addressable use more. So okay, let me walk through this. My thinking now is that the original thing I wanted to do is I wanted to have mono behavior set up in the scene that I could then add these scripts to. So I could say, hey, this is a, okay, well, there's errors that I need to fix before I can demo this. But if I comment this section out, this is how I would traditionally write this code, was I would go in here and I would instantiate each of those objects based off of this prefab game object. We would come into this scene. We would make it so that the damage effect was the effect that we drag in to here. And now this damage effect is being directly referenced inside of this game object pool. And it's fine. It's fine. This is all fine. And we can do this. This is totally a thing we could do. We could say that this thing has 10 damage effects that it would spawn, and we can say that this is the damage effect, would be its ID, and then we'd probably want to hide is loaded, honestly, because we don't need that. And then we could also, this would be the damage effect pool. But there is also the concept of like the particle pool, and the particle pool would instead reference this particle 10. That would go there. Maybe we only need like 5 of these at a time, and we would call this like sword hit particle or something, and we would add that in here. And so then every time we need to add a new particle to the game, we would add a new game object. That game object would then get a prefab reference, and then it would get a number of count that it should have, and then an effect. This is the way I would do it in the past. I guess the trick with this, or the reason that addressable, okay, here's the other way we can lay it out. Let's talk about the two options. The other way we could lay this out instead was we could set it up so that instead of referencing this damage effect, we can make this damage effect addressable. We can call it damage effect. Then we can say that we need to have this in a design data somewhere. We could go into here. We could add a new sheet. We could add in here a new type, which is damage. I would add titles to the top of this, but there would be a damage effect, would be the prefab that we would want. And then once we get that damage effect, we want to have a count of 10 of those objects. And then like potentially we would want to have it have an ID. So so we would have an ID, we would have a prefab, and then we would have a count. And then we could write all of our pool systems in here. But see, the thing is, we wouldn't even need all the pool systems in here because we're already writing a particles in here, and that particle has an ID and a prefab, a color and offset. We could add a count, and then this thing here we could just preload. And then when we take this design data, we import it, we use that design data inside of the game object pool manager, now instead of creating these pools, getting them to register themselves on load and then initializing themselves, we would instead just initialize the pools based off of the design data that we have. So those are kind of the two ways. We either do it design driven, like everything else that we're doing in this entire project, or we do it where they're game objects that exist in the scene. I get that, Rob. There's some other reasons why doing it the design driven way that would add some things that would be cool. So the real reason, which I haven't talked about, that you use addressables that's really nice, is that you can kind of set up some of these different settings so that certain addressables are shipped with your project and certain addressables are instead hosted on a server. So for example, I could say, hey, we ship the character models with you, but we have it so that the game on launch references a server for what the enemy model should look like, or the design data. So I could tune all of the design data off of data that's on a server, but it's not shipped with the project. And so by making everything addressable based, it's easier to have anything in the game be either on the server or shipped with the game, kind of as willed as you want. But you're right, for now we probably don't need to do it, and we have this system already set up, so I'm going to leave it like this. Alright, so we'll do it this way. We won't do it the addressable way. Instead, we will pass in the prefab. We'll initialize it into a series of pooled objects. We'll then register. So, okay, we don't need this on load anymore. Is there an async version of its initialize? Okay, there isn't. At least not one that I can see. Okay, so this is going to be a blocking call. So when we instantiate all of these game objects, it's going to hard stop the game. But that's fine because we're going to initialize all of this stuff during the loading screen. So the loading screen is just going to have a hard pause while we do all of this pool initialization. That should be fine. So then this thing here needs to get initialized inside of the loading manager somewhere. We can stick it at the beginning, I suppose. .instance.initialize all pools. It's the first thing we do inside of the manager. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be a load at the very beginning, so you shouldn't even really notice too much. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't just initialize all pools at the start. Okay, so all pools will register themselves on awake before we even get in here. Then we'll go into initialize. We'll loop through all of them. We'll do this. We don't need an initialize complete anymore because we're not doing this asynchronously. So I guess I could just remove this. If I decide to go back and do it a different way, then we can update as need be. Okay, so we've initialized all the pools. They will create a series of game objects. We also want to do something else here. We want to not only get these pool objects, so we want to pass that in like that, but when we initialize this, we want to do a couple things. We want to go game object. Hey Kazukish, welcome to the stream. Good to see you stopping by. Equals this. Okay, so we get the game object of the prefab, game object transform dot set parent to this dot transform, and then we take that game object and we pass that in here. Okay, So now all of the things that we initialize will get initialized underneath. Okay. So if we hit play, we get some null references because we're missing a game object pool manager in the scene. Okay, so this exists here. I do want to create a new empty pools. Drag this out here, and then all these pools can live underneath this game object so we can collapse it if we need to. Okay. Hit play. Also no references on... This needs to get initialized somewhere. Can I not just do that inline? I think I can just do it inline. I just didn't. Okay, so we initialize our dictionary. And then we should have pooling. Almost. Is that what it's complaining about? Seems weird. Objects, what is a null reference there? So the thing with Unity though is Unity lists are initialized, dictionaries aren't initialized, but lists are initialized if they're public. So I'm a little confused by that because it should have been, oh, it's not a public list? Oh, this isn't serializable. And because this is not serializable, that means that that list is not being displayed in the Unity editor window and thus is not being initialized. If, however, I make this serializable, then I can get rid of that because inside of here, you'll see that that list will now appear. And because that list has appeared, Unity has initialized it as part of their UI logic. Yeah, so now it's here. So now we don't have to initialize it because the UI is already initializing it for us. Unity, it's a whole bunch of magic. It's just learning the magic and then you're fine. Okay, so we created 10 objects underneath here, which are the damage effects, and we've created a bunch of hit effects under here. And we'll need to do this for every particle and every damage effect that we want to add to the game. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine, Tolhi, it's fine. Alright, so we've got that working. We've registered them. Now we need to be able to allocate them. So this is where we need to be able to reference them, at which point we kind of need to make a decision on the static ID thing. This might make more sense for these to be enums. So the thought process here is that we need to be able to reference these game object pools. So if we go and look at the resolve effect moment, effect ability state, in here we do, right now we're initializing this sword hit particle. The hope would be that now instead of doing that, we could instead do a game object pool manager dot instance and then allocate, which we need to write, but we would need to write a public void allocate and then inside of here we would need to pass in some sort of ID, and then this thing would need to grab that ID based off that ID, and then this thing would probably need to have its own allocate function that we would call allocates with inside of allocates. And then this guy's allocate would need to, it wouldn't need to take in an ID. It would just simply need to go through for the object count size, which at this point we could probably don't have to use the count size. We could just use the game objects dot count. We need to loop through all the game objects, and we need to see if game object, I actually think we want to pass back a game object as part of allocate. So we want to go dot I, I'm gonna go if dot I dot m in use. If not in use, then it is now in use, set to true, and then return m allocate, or sorry, the m object. Okay. And then otherwise we want to return null, and we probably want to do a debug.log error, trying to access more objects than is in the pool. Bad. Fail. All right, so then we take this, might also want to be courteous and just set activity to true so that no one else has to do that, because ideally at this point the object is probably going to get set to true. And now as we work backwards, we're going to do the deallocate at the same time. Double checking spelling. So deallocate is going to pass in a game object. And then we're going to loop down through until we find a pool whose m object equals that game object. Then we're going to set this to false, set this to false, and then be happy and done. The issue though is that we may not have the pooled object. Like, I don't want to pass the object around, but we always have this game object, Rob. The game object is all we need. I get that, but this is fine. Well, if we need to modify it, we can. Okay, so then this does this, and then this needs to take a game object back. And then this needs to return, and then this needs to deallocate, and then this needs to deallocate, and then it needs to take in a game object. So now this thing just needs to take one game object, pass in, but it'll also still need the ID technically. Okay, so then this is how we allocate and deallocate objects. So once again, we run into the problem or the question of, okay, so we have it, so we set up so we can allocate an object, which will basically pass back an object to us, and we can deallocate an object, which at some point we should deallocate objects, ideally. Sure. I don't feel like capsing. Okay, let's make that super unreadable. Now, again, we come back up to the resolve effect. So we can allocate an object, and we need to pass in an ID of the object that we want to allocate. But we run into this problem that, like, it's gonna be the more I write this stuff, the more I feel better about it being in the design data. So having the, like, damage effect in the design data feels really wonky and weird, but for the particle effects, I feel like the particle effect should just be in charge of pooling itself, so that we don't have to write a ton of pooling stuff, and then instead of having to reference an ID from a static class somewhere, each ability just references its particle, and that particle just knows based on that idea which pool to grab. It's a lot cleaner. It's only complicated when we get into the on hit effect. Okay, for now though, let's just do a really bad thing, which is just hashing in place. Hashing is usually a pretty complicated function, so you really don't want to do this, but I'm going to just do this to get it up and running as we continue to work out any tweaks to this system. So then we don't need to do addressable. We're just allocating this object. Did we call it sort hit effect? Or what did we call this particle? We also have to, like, reference back to this thing, and then this data has to be the same as the data in the design data, otherwise it won't work. Like, okay, so then, yeah, that's the same name. So this should allocate a sort particle hit effect. I will check real quick here though. So we need to do the same logic to it. So once we allocate that game object, particle, we need to have that particle. Oh, this is bad. Okay, so here's the next issue. We need to have its position set to this. Transform dot position is equal to this. And then we need to set its rotation. You know what? We don't need to set its rotation, and we don't need to set its game object. We just need to set its position, but we need this particle to play. So now we have to do particle get component. Particle system dot play might work. No, Unity, it will play the moment it's instantiated, because it's set to autoplay by default. That's why it works currently. So the way it currently works, or the way it was working, was we were instantiating the object. The moment that it's instantiated, it autoplays. So now we kind of have to call play on it, which is a little sloppy, but still fine. I'm getting really particular about things. I know, it's terrible. I'm sorry, but now I'm starting to write code that I want to be able to work on for a while, and I don't want to have to keep messing with some of this dumb stuff. Like, I don't mind like constructors not being around and like other nonsense, but like there's some overarching design stuff here that I'm starting to get annoyed by, that I feel like as we continue to build is only going to bother me further. So I need to spend like half a day just cleaning some of this code up off camera is what I really need to do. Okay, so we get the sorted particle, we do this, great. Now we also want to do the same thing, but for the on hit effect. So we want to grab the sword hit part. No, it's not loading. Load faster so I may click on things. There we go, damage effect. Want to get the damage effect, we want to do that. We want to do that. This will be the damage effect. And then this thing, we also want to set its position to be in the same spot. And then we're probably going to want to have some sort of class that we add to the damage effect that we can call play on essentially in the same way. So let's write that real quick. So we wrote the damage effect prefab, which doesn't really do much at this point. I will need to set its text to the proper number. You are correct. Let's figure that out as well before we dive into writing that next script. How would we get the proper damage amount? That's going to be under this perform, I think. No, we're doing this wrong. We're doing it wrong. Okay, so when we perform, we send notifications about performance on whether we missed or hit inside of the perform of the ability, apply. Under apply, we have post notification with either a miss notification with hit data. So we have a miss or we have a hit, and the hit gives us the damage. So we need to be listening for these effects. Do we have anyone else listening for this right now? Add observers inside of some other nonsense, but that's fine because we can use this as a reference. So we need to write two scripts. We need to write two different scripts. We need to write one that exists on the character. It can exist on both for now, but we need to write two different ones. We need to write damage effect listener. No. Be fast. Okay, so we need to write... Why does listener look wrong to me? Listener. Because there's an E. Okay, damage effect listener. Okay, then this thing here. Why'd you open character? Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. Damage effect listener. You need to have a on disable effect. Sure, why not? We'll slam that in there. We care about these two effects, and then we have functions that we're going to need to call, which is going to be these ones and these ones. We're going to do like this. Okay. Effect. What was effect? Do we need that? Post notification. does this work? Sender. We need to listen for who's sending it. Stats, get game object, parent stats. Okay. So most of the time we're just grabbing stats to do this, but in some situations we need to grab owner, which is going to be like ability. Okay. So who sends this on hit? This on hit is called by an ability effect. Okay. So I guess in the same way that this thing, see, this is why it was good we found a reference. So we need to have get tracked effect. So what does this thing do? This thing gets ability opponent, get child. Okay, wow, you do some stuff, don't you? Don't you? I don't know if we need all of this. Because we wrote, okay, let's take another example. If we got rid of this, does this still work? It does. Okay, so why was this guy using effects? Sorry, I just now trying to comprehend what we were doing here. So this thing took the effect in. I think this is saying I'm listening for this ability, but only on this specific effect. So I don't care about anyone else, I only care about this one. I didn't mean to attach debugger. For us though, I do think we kind of care in the same way, because we don't want to play our damage effect on anyone, we want to play it only on ourselves. So each enemy should be in charge of getting hit, rather than the state manager handling is what I'm trying to get to it. So if we send out a damage on hit effect, that damage on hit effect should have the character listen themselves to tell if they've been hit, and then if they've been hit, then they instantiate the damage text effect. It shouldn't be inside of the resolve effect ability state in here. Honestly, the same thing should be true for the particle effect and probably for the take damage as well. All of this logic shouldn't be looping through the list of targets. We should likely have each enemy handle this themselves when the ability is performed on them. So that being said, we'll probably do care about adding an observer, but only listening for the effect we care about. Oh wait, no, this on hit effect tells us who got hit. No, we don't need this. There's some data in here that we can listen for. If we look for on hit notification again, this thing passes in damage, which is an integer. Hit data. Hit data is what we're listening for. This is the one that I care about. Not on hit notification, but hit data. Because this guy, we create an info which will give us the bool of whether it was a hit or a miss. This will tell us which unit was the attacker, which unit was the target, and how much damage was done. So this is the event we should be listening for, not the hit. Okay, cool. We're on it. We're on it. So hit data. We don't need to listen for for the miss notification, just the on hit. And then on hit effect here, then we're taking these arguments out, and then the argument should contain I'm trying to remember how we reference how we get the arguments out. We've done this recently. Let's look for all examples. Target pressed button. Here, .arg. We get it as this info list. So we want to grab the argument, we want to convert it from this list into the same list that gets set here. So we want to do arg as this. Then once we have that, we can go info. Does that work? Like that? There we go. This is a definition of what we should treat this as. Okay. Now we can do argument 0, which is whether or not it was a hit or miss. So we can do quite literally for right now the simplest thing, which would be we're going to go pool manager.instance allocate, and we are going to allocate static string m. I can't remember the naming convention for statics right this second. We'll just do m underscore for the time being. What is this going to be? Damage effect ID. Which is this. Copy and paste for spelling. Okay. And then we can have a private int damage effect. Technically, this is going to happen every time we on enable, but that's still better than every time on a hit effect happens. Okay, so then we have the ID, we can pass that in, good. Then else, okay, I guess technically we want to do this either way, and then we want to grab this game object. Equals this, and then get component. We still need underneath all of this the concept of the actual damage effect. So that's the damage effect listener. Then we still need the damage effect. So new script, damage effect, create and add. I have to figure out where that got created and move it around. Okay, then we need to reopen it because it didn't open the file. Okay, it's down there. I'll drag it into a script folder later. Come on. Come on! There we go. So now we have a damage effect. So now we have this object, which we know will be on here. So we can do damage effect, damage effect. In fact, we can be super lazy because we don't really need the game object, and we can just do .get component off of this damage effect. And now we take this damage effect and we'll need to do some stuff with it. So what does the damage effect have? It needs to have some sort of a init function or play. I guess play is a fine way to call this. Void play. I'm thinking string, but I actually need to write the word string. Text to display. Okay. And then in here we'll need a using Text Mesh Pro, using Text Mesh Pro. Then we can have a public Text Mesh Pro reference, GUI, damage effect text. Okay, this thing here is going to have its dot text dot equal to text to display. Damage effect is equal to that. Good, good, good. For the time being, we won't do much more than this. We'll just hit play on it, and then maybe we set a timer. Timer equal private m timer equals 0.0f. This needs to be a float, is what I'm trying to say. Then we can set it to something like 2.0f for the time being. This is really, we'll fix this to be like animating and stuff in a moment, but for the time being we can just do if timer is greater or less than or equal to 0.0f, then we are done, and we can call, actually if it's greater than 0, then m timer dot minus equal time dot delta time, so that we lower it. And then if m timer is less than or equal to 0, then we do pool manager dot instance dot deallocate, and then it is deallocating this dot game object itself. You deallocate yourself, and you'll need to give yourself an ID. Oh man, that's unfortunate. So you'll need this same logic. I don't like how I have to keep adding this. I mean, by rights, I could add, I could make a single class that's in charge of this, but there's a time and a place, and right now I just want to get past this. All right, so that works as far as we're concerned. It's not good, but it'll work. So it'll deallocate itself after 2 seconds. It'll display the text, it'll just appear, and then it'll disappear after 2 seconds. Okay. Good. And then damage effect listener, damage effect dot play. And then we want to pass in the text to display, which in this case will be info.arg3, which is the damage.toString. Should be fine for now. Eventually we can like change the on play. We can also pass in maybe like whether it's a hit or a miss, and then maybe it's in charge of figuring out what type of text it should display instead of that being here. That might be better actually. For now, we'll just have it hard-coded to say miss, because we might also want to change the color of the text or other things, which would make more sense to happen inside of here. That gets kicked off. Cool. The only other thing that we really want to do is we want to set this damage effect to be positioned near us. So position is equal to this dot game object dot. We want to do one more thing. We want to actually make sure that this is me. Get component unit. Equals info.arg2, I believe, was the target. So if I'm the target of this, then we move on. Okay. This needs to be this .gameObject.transform.position. This actually can just be .transform. This should have a reference to its own transform. Shouldn't need to go through GameObject. All right. So on hit effect, if this unit is equal to me, then we allocate an effect. We set the transform to here. We call play on it with either damage number or the miss number. This thing will basically just display that text for 2 seconds and then deallocate itself. Now we can go back into the resolve effect ability. This should no longer need any of this damage effect code. That can all just go away. We can for now, Rob, but I do want to just change how this whole thing is working in a few moments anyways, so... But we can put it in the same position as the actual damage. That's fine. You're right. Okay, cool. So it's not appearing at their feet. Quick fix. Now, this damage effect should have that. The only other thing I need to do is make sure that this damage effect also has the Text Mesh Pro attached to it, which is there... Yeah, I can hit open prefab now. Oh man, some of this new stuff is so cool. Hit that and then hit back. Okay, so now the damage effect should have that. Oh, it's so much better. You used to have to drag it into the scene, manipulate it, and then drag it back out into the hierarchy over top of the existing object and apply it, or hit apply and then delete. That's just better. It's just better. That's better workflow. All right, cool. So that's fixed. Damage effect should be being instantiated. The only other thing, or one more thing, there's going to be a lot of one more things, but we need to do on the factory. We need to add this effect to every single, or this script to every single one of these guys at the same level that we add unit factory, not user factory. Got it. So here we want to do object.add component. Nope, add component. We want a damage effect listener. That'll happen on every monster, and that'll happen on every character. And now everyone should be able to fire off damage effects. Maybe? Here's hoping. No reference. Interesting. So why did that break? Are you getting unit component of damage effect instead of the monster? No, shouldn't be. The question is whether maybe this on hit info is coming back with nothing. It could be the other on hit info, to be honest. I'm not sure why we had two. I thought about deleting it a moment ago because we do hit with damage and this seems wrong to me. I'm gonna just, no one else is using this right now, so I'm just gonna comment this out. I think this might have been old code that I brought over from the other project, and I don't think I need it. And I bet you there's some sort of safety mechanisms that I wrote into it to make sure that this works for whatever I was doing in that other project, but we're just gonna get rid of that other call. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So now we hit attack, ghost, go. Well, we didn't get a null reference. That's fun. What's the problem? The problem is it's not being added to the canvas. Also, these things are being left on by default, which is also funny. So that might just be a matter of putting the damage pool under the canvas. Should be good enough for that. Because it just needs to be under the canvas. So this is create empty game object, canvas based pools. That can go there. And then this can be particle pools. There we go. That's good. Same page, Rob, for the most part. And then the other thing I noticed that is all of those objects are on by default. That's because we're only setting them off. Oh god, we've lost it. Pool objects, game objects, poolable. Apparently there's other pool stuff. Oh. Oh. This is an inventory engine that I brought down from somewhere else that we haven't really played with because we haven't gotten the inventories yet. But I bought this thing and it's more of a code pack and it's fantastic. I really love it. But it turns out it came with a pooling system. Out of curiosity, how do you handle it? You're doing an instantiate. I want my pooling system to work the way I want it. We didn't need that, but it's interesting that it was there. Honestly, that probably would have just confused me more if I tried to use it. Alright, alright, I was trying to find ours though, because, oh, here we go. I wanted to be able to set these things to active false in the beginning when we create them as well. There we go. They should default to off, because otherwise we're just going to see a bunch of text on the screen when we hit play here, now that they're under the proper location. Oh, we have to go back to the beginning too. The whole thing that we started with, the very first thing I asked was how do we convert text to screen position, because that's not right. So we also need to do damage effect. Here we are doing just straight set position, but we actually want to do camera dot main dot, whoa, what was it? Which one was it? World to screen point, I think sounds right. Let's give this a try and see what we end up with. Also, that text was huge. It was also kind of weird, too. I wonder if that's something to do with the way that we instantiate it. Maybe it's getting its scale set from somewhere, or maybe these pools have scales. Oh yeah, this object has scale on it. That should probably set to 1. Not 6. There we go. You know what, Rob? Yes. The 5-second wait every time we want to test something is kind of annoying, but... Okay, that did nothing. That did a solid nothing, because it set its position to here, which is in the middle of nowhere. So it was at least closer when it was just setting it to the raw position. Okay. Oh, these effects are also at size 6 right now? Alright, well, let's try this again. Yeah, they get instantiated at a really high size. Oh, it's because of a bunch of dumb reasons. Alright, well that's fine. We want to, on instantiation, probably set their scale to 1. In most situations, this is going to come back to bite me. But for the time being, this is probably the okay answer. We'll have to find a more complicated way of determining what the scale of an object should be in the future. Can I not just do scale? Do we only have global scale? Vector 3, 1. Cannot be assigned. Let's try local scale. Okay, they're now the right size. If we toggle one of these guys on, okay, it exists there. Fine. And then if we attack him, that gets set to somewhere off in the middle of nowhere. Okay, so what was the function that we're calling? It's camera.main world to screen point. World to viewport. Let's try that instead. Let's try different functions until it gives me the thing I want. Well, even if it was behind the background, it should be up here. It shouldn't be below. It's at least kind of closer. Alright. So this is the part that's also going to be somewhat tricky, which is figuring out how we convert this information. World to viewport, world object transform dot position, viewport position. Once you have that viewport position, you times it by the canvas size. Okay, first you need the UI element, then you need the rect transform of your canvas, then you calculate the position of the UI element. The 0, 0 for the canvas at the center of the screen, whereas world to viewport treats the lower one left as a 0, 0. Because of this, you need to subtract the width and height of the canvas times 0.5 to get the correct position. Now, set the position of the UI element. This looks to be a similar code. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so we'll need to get the canvas rec, which we should be able to go upwards to find. There should only be one canvas in the scene right now, so we're going to write the really bad code that just goes up. Alright, get component in parent canvas dot rect transform, get component rect transform. Okay, and then do this. Let's just see if this works first before I write proper code to grab this information. Hey Spirit, welcome to the stream. I'm happy to see you're still lurking, I guess. I guess you're not anymore, but I appreciate the Prime sub. I mean, for the most part, it just kind of goes back into a pool that I've just been keeping off to one side for, like, if there's certain games you guys want to see me stream. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that pool, but we can find something to improve the community, I'm sure. But thanks for saying hello. I appreciate that. Man, that Minecraft days have been a long time. It's like gonna be like 9 years, is it, this year? Whoa, what was that? Hey, it's a follow. Thanks for the follow. Okay, so then we do all this stuff, and you're right, we're not setting the position, so we need to do... Thanks, Rob. I lost my place. But for a good cause. All right. Or for good reason. That's the way to say that. That should maybe work. Yeah, all right. Let's give this a try and see what happens. Let us see what we can do. So we had the text showing up before. Is it better or worse? No reference. It's worse. Couldn't find that canvas. All right. Let's do this a different way then. That is equally bad. Combat. Public. Rec. Transform. Hey, follow from Nomer. Thanks, Nomer. I think we're about to hit like 200 follows or something. I don't think it matters per se, but Twitch keeps reminding me of it. Right, transform. Cool, 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 cool. Now inside of damage effect, listener, we will do combat character manager.instance.rec transform. This is another way to really grab this in a really inefficient way. Cool. Let's try this. Yeah, maybe it only goes up one level. Maybe there's a get in all parent or something, but... Well, it didn't null reference. Where did it go? It went equally far in space. Okay, so... When was this post from? This post was from 2014. Let's change tools. Let's go anytime in the past year. Converting canvas space to world space. Nope. How to show world space. Nope, nope, nope. World space UI. Canvas. Convert world position to canvas in another camera. No response. Fantastic. Well, no, Rob, because it's on the canvas layer, so it's already rendering over top of everything. Let's fix the barbarian speed. We'll hard code change it for now. Characters, barbarian, initiative, 43. Apparently we changed the wizard instead. Whatever. Go here, go 2D view. Okay, so yeah, it's spawning off in the middle of nowhere right now. It's over here. So, why? Let's take another look at some of this stuff. Let's comment out this section. I swear, you only have to write this code once. Once you get it, then you never have to worry about it again, but that means every time I have to write it from scratch again, I'm just like, God, how do you do this? I haven't written this in a while. Okay, we've got world to camera, world to screen point, and world to viewpoint. What is viewpoint or screen point? Screen point didn't work either, did it? Let's do a little bit more digging. Diggy, diggy, diggy. Tell me the difference, Unity. What's the difference between these two functions? Transform position from world to viewport space. Viewport space is normalized and relative to the camera. Bottom left is 0, the top right is 1. The position Z units from the camera. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense why they're writing that code the way they do. Screen space is defined in pixels. The bottom left is 0, and the top right is pixel width, pixel height. Okay, well, if then I have to choose, I'll choose viewport. Viewport should be the one we're after. Okay, let's take a look at some of this code then, and let's debug through and see what the values are as we manipulate and grab some stuff. Yeah, so the view... is using the vectors that would work for the screen one. We'll see what happens. I just want to see the code. Well, that's not what I want to see. Okay, so on hit effect, this isn't me, this isn't V. Okay, we're gonna just get rid of that breakpoint until we find me. Okay, we found me. So we have the camera canvas that has a bunch of stuff in it. Okay, now we have a position in the world of negative 2.900, and then we're going up. So viewport for that is 0.3, 0.6. Does that seem right? 0.3, 0.6. Yeah? Like a third of the way in and about a 6 up? Yeah, that seems about right. That seems like about the right spacing. Okay, so that's coming back with a valid number. So then it's probably this logic. So then we're doing viewport position times canvas size delta, which is going to be 344. Okay, and then this is going to be the same anchoring problem that the other person mentioned in the forums, I think. Oh, I see what the problem is. Yeah, okay. Try choosing screen viewport to screen point with the existing logic. We can try that if you want, Rob. We can give that a quick try. Come on, Unity. I believe in your ability to hit go. Okay, so we have this data here. I'm debugging again. World to screen, blah, blah, blah. Position, blah, blah, blah. Hit the breakpoint. All right, so we come into here, we get a viewport position of 344, 455. Pixels. Okay. F10. Screen position of a bajillion and a bajillion. So it's not using this logic per se. Doesn't help that this has positional data on it. It also doesn't help that this pool has a transform and not a rect transform, which is going to mess everything up. Copy component, paste component as new. Got it. Good. Moving on. Damage. Effect. Pool. And then that's at 0, that's at 0, 1, 1, 1. Okay. Now that we fixed that, let's try this again. Let's do the original logic, because it was off slightly when we did this, but I think it might have just been a bit off simply because of the fact that our parent was off slightly, because we're setting our position, not our local position. Like, yeah, so if our, well, no, because it's setting our local position, so our parent shouldn't matter, but the fact that it was not a rect transform but just a regular transform could have been messing things up. Nope. What if you remove the logic and just use viewport as in? What does that give us? We'll try the 4 variations, because we kind of have to retest everything because the parenting was off. So that gave us something. Viewport position, viewport like I just want to work through it. So viewport position.x times size.delta-x. So this should give us a position. So if we, let's bring up calculator. Hello, calculator. So if we have 1280 times the first number, which would be 0.3, then our pixel position should be 384. We want our numbers to work out to something like this. So if we have 1280 times 0.3, which is what it's coming back as, and then we minus half of 1280, so 1280 divided by 2, so 384 minus 640 is 256. Yeah, okay, so that math works out. Okay, let's just try this version. So I legitimately think that it may have just been off in space because its parent was messed up, and I think this logic does just work. So let's try it one more time. Yeah, it is from the center of the canvas. Our anchoring is center the whole way down. Well, that just doesn't make any sense. 0, 0. All right, let's debug through it. We know what it should be now. We know what these numbers should work out to, and we need to figure out why they're not working out to those numbers. Yeah. Same page. We're gonna get there. Attack the ghost. All right, working through the math. So we get back a position, which is the percentage it is in the world. So 0.3 is the width, so it's about a third of the way through the screen, which if we give this whole length, that seems about right. So it's about a third. So then we go, okay, well, the character is about a third of the way. Then we go canvas rec size delta, which is x, is 1280. So if we times that by the viewport x, then we get 344. The viewport x over here is 640. So putting those two pieces together, we get fine. You know what? Fine. You know what? Fine. I'll do it down here. If you won't do it there, we get negative 295, which again seems relatively close to where we want to be. Negative 250-ish is it where we think we ought to be. So that seems right. And then this one comes out to 85, which we were looking at about 90. So these numbers are correct if we manually position it to that spot. And that's what they come out to here. Transform dot. Local position? Is that why you're yelling at me? I mean, the canvas is at 0, 0 as well, so I don't know why it would matter. No, okay. That's fair, Rob. So it's a little too far to the left. So it needs to be in local position. That's the primary problem here. So if we go back and hit the ghost, awesome. It's likely because of orthographic. Because our camera is an orthographic view, it's probably the problem. Oh, that's fun. Change that to skybox. No, it's just back. Well, it wouldn't be plus vec at that. You would need to be like some other stuff. No, it's just off. Why are you slightly behind? Also, we're allocating and playing these particles, but we're not deallocating them once the particle is done. We're gonna have to figure out something for that as well. Sorry, I just noticed the game objects being on. Well, we're closer. At least it's on the screen now. So it should be spawning here at the feet. Should make these guys clickable as well. But we'll need to get some on-screen like raycasting, or at least figuring out the position of the unit before we do that. But anyways. Okay. Yeah, just off. Is it off by a different amount? So if this guy's... Oh, we can move him around, actually. Oh, that failed. Oh, because we ran out of hit effects for the particle system. There's no valid particle hit. Let's just make this like 100 for now. Done. Let's move some of these units around and see what happens. And it's not a perfect representation, Nomer. In fact, it's eventually going to be something very different, I imagine. Okay, let's drag the ghost out to the center of the screen. Game view. Sorry, not game view. 3D view. Drag him out to here. Attack him here. See what happens. Still back. Interesting. What if we drag him over to here? I'm in your back lines. Haha. We missed? I guess there is like a 5% chance or something stupid right now. Yeah, it's a static offset. So it doesn't matter where it is. Because I thought if it was based off of screen position or something, it would be something else. But it's not. Okay, well, how are we dictating... What are we using to dictate this position? This position is being based off of the prefab, right? That's on combat character. Oh, we can't see it. It's on the character model, but it's based off the animator, which is here. So it's this part here. This is the game object that we're playing with. Oh, but not on that character, on the ghost. Which is at his feet. 100% right there. So there's no reason it should be off, and it's off on all of them too. Change it to ARG1, that way the attacker will display the attack text. Let's see if it happens the same way on the player characters. So it should play in front of him if they work the same way. It does, okay. So it's unlikely that it's based off the models. Yeah, it's spawning to the left. What is on the spawning fees actually? Yeah, it's like slightly to the left, but we want it to spawn on their route, on their position. Nothing about this math seems intrinsically wrong to me. Okay. So for this, we're now checking the character, not the enemy. Kind of maybe should have put it back to the ghost. .9 and 6. Yeah, it seems about right. Although wasn't this 6 as well? Okay, well, whatever. Okay, and then we're getting 4, 8, 5, and 79. Let's move on. That ends up being the same value. We're gonna just snipping tool that. Okay. And then we're gonna hit play to continue. Damage effect. Bring this back in. 988.6, which was being rounded. It was actually 5716, so that's right. And then 79.9. Yeah, that all seems right. Is the text off? Oh, we're stupid. Oh, we're so stupid. Ta-da! God. There's a sign that it's time to stop streaming. All right, let's fix that in the prefab, and then we'll move forward with our lives. Why is it being offset to the left? Oh, maybe because the text itself is not center aligned. Oh. Alright. Welcome to coding. Most of it's you yelling at the screen for hours going, why doesn't this work? And then when you figure it out, you go, oh, because I'm dumb. That's why. Yay. Alright. No, I don't need you, Breakpoint. Everything's fine now. Well, we didn't even get to see it because Breakpoint. Okay. It might help if we change it back to his feet, but it, like, if you didn't see it, it was because it was spawning on the wizard's feet, and it was similar in color and shape. Well, not shape, but it blended. Let's change it back to spawn on the enemy, and let's put that up vector back in. What am I? Oh, I'm hitting F2. Like, why isn't it working? Why isn't 2 entering? Wrong spot. Cool, cool. Okay, attack, ghost. Spawn text. Hey! It lasts way too long. Probably should only be like a second, but it also should be like animating too. But this means that we're gonna have to find an actual way to get the canvas rectangle, which I don't know. We'll figure something out. We'll figure out a way to do this proper in the future. For now, it being hard coded onto the combat is the least of my concerns. That is not a big hack. Let's do that fade thing right now. We know how to do that really easily. Whoa, no, go back, go back, go back. Ease controller. We did all this stuff with the lighting last stream. So let's just do it again. So we want to add an ease controller, blah, 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 blah. We put this on damage effect. Oh, we have to set up so much stuff for this. We need to create an ease controller. That needs to go up at the top. It can be a private variable. Then we need to create an on fade function. Cool. That can go down here. We should probably also You're complaining because I have a bunch of nonsense in here that's not expecting. Good. On fade delegate does not match. We should probably fix that, yes, to be on creation and a bunch of other stuff. To be honest, we could just add the ease controller to the prefab directly so we don't have to add it the way I am, but I'm just trying to see if I can get this working quickly. We can always remove this line later. Why is it complaining about on fade? No overloaded for on fade matches event handler. Is it because it needs to return something? Why? No? There shouldn't... Okay, maybe I really should stop. Show potential fixes. Using system. Hey! Just click the buttons and everything's fine. I also want an EC dot on complete. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I hit tab and it just made it. That was cool. Cool. And then we want to do this on complete. And seek back to the beginning. I don't think I have to do that, but I'm going to because I feel like it. And then ec.play. All of this stuff should actually be set up on load. Yeah, this shouldn't be. It's fine. We're just going to play the function. So what does this thing do on update? On update, we are going to do a couple things, which is going to be grabbing the Text Mesh Pro, and we are going to position. Do we want position? No, we want color.alpha to be equal to 1 minus EC.current value. So this will fade down. You don't like me setting color that way. Unity doesn't like it when you set a bunch of things like directly that way, so you have to do it the ridiculously bad way. Well, it's not ridiculously bad, it's just less than ideal. R G B alpha. Okay, and then we should be able to do dot transform dot local position is equal to, and then we can do probably save this at the beginning. Private. Yeah, there needs to be a damage effect like init somewhere on here that's like on awake that like sets a bunch of this stuff. In fact, can I just try that? Can I just do public awake, all of this logic happen on awake, and then this logic I want to save private vector3 m initial position. Okay. And then this can be, can we do vector3.lerp? Oh, we can. That's cool. Initial position. I guess initial position plus vector3 up for now. And then EC.current value. Seems fine. I'm tired, Rob. Tired? Tired. But I refuse to give up until we get the first thing on our list done. The first! In case we forgot what the list was, we wanted to get damage effect done. I kind of figured, so we did more than just damage effect. We got a pooling system, at least kind of rudimentary started. I might do more with it off camera. We kind of needed this positional logic figured out if we were going to add HP bars above the enemies, so we kind of had to do the screen logic as, oh my god, why? Why? What are you complaining about now? EC dot duration, because I need this to be add. I changed it to get because I was being silly. Okay. It's fine. Okay, see, we're fine. It's all fine. It's probably fine. It's likely fine. Really could just add. Okay, well, it didn't move up very much. That's probably because it needs to move up more than just one. Let's do a new position, which is fade up position. And fade up position will be equal to new vector3. I don't remember what I was talking about. I feel like I was rambling and then I just completely zoned out as things broke, and now I don't remember what I was doing or what I was talking about. But just stuff. We did stuff today. We got progress. I think it's still valid. 100 pixels. It's going to move up by 100 pixels. And then we need to actually set that down here. so that we fade between those two values. And then how long is the duration? 0.25. Let's change that to 1.0. We've added stuff. We've done things. Pooling was a really good step in the right direction. Now we should be able to do particles easier moving forward. Well, that looks like awful. Also doesn't work more than once. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine, Rob. It's fine. We're fine. Okay, here we go. Hit the button. Ghost. Get hit. Attack. Get hit. Attack. Get hit. That looks awful. Alright. That's because this is constant. That's why. No, wait. No, it's because this ease, this quad. It's because we don't want to ease in, we ease out. We want to have... Which one of these do we want instead? Probably one of the quads. Let's try ease in quad. Where'd Unity go? Come back, Unity. Actually, I can change this in editor. That's better. You're right, Rob. It probably could be a little bit better sequenced in that, like, it flies off. It, like, should be paused hard and then go super fast is probably the correct answer. Let's see if we change this from... Oh, can I not modify the easing type? Why would you not let me modify the easing type? Oh, because it's a function float, float, float. Okay. It's not actually like a parameter that I can mess with at runtime. Unfortunate. Okay. I have a bunch of other fading, like sequencing using EC controller, or the easing controller in my other project. I'll probably just go grab one of those off camera. I spent a whole bunch of time making really, really good like fade up effects, or at least I spent a bunch of time making one before, and I think I can just grab the math. So I'll probably do that off camera. All right, cool. So what did we do? Let's talk about it. Let's break it down before we end this stream, or you can just run away. I'm fine with either. All right, so we did damage effect. This, for the most part, is done. I still feel like we might need to come back to it at a later point. Well, I want to go grab that code off camera anyways to make it a little bit better. But we also did the pooling, object pooling, which is going to be super helpful when we get into having multiple different particle effects. We'll want to have a bunch of different pools to hold all of those different particle effects that'll all be loaded. We probably don't want 100 in our pool though. but we'll need pools in order for our particles to work properly. So this is really, really handy that we've got this set up. So I'm happy about that as well. So we got that pooling set up. And then we also figured out world space to screen space, which was not hard once you knew it. It was same as anything that we do in, like, it's the first time setting it up, it's usually like, wait, how do I do this again? But once we got that logic, we can now use that anywhere we need to. But we needed this world space to screen space. If we're gonna, what I want to attempt to do next is visualize the health bars. So we did this stuff. I'm glad I wrote it down. So now we'll want to visualize the health bars. So I want to display little health bars above these guys' heads, just to kind of keep track for debugging purposes how much health the character has. We'll probably get rid of it in the future or not. I don't know. We'll see. And then more ability types. I did import from the other project a bunch of different types of abilities. In here, from the other project I was working on, I brought in like inflict ability, revive, undead ability effect, magical power, KO, I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff in here. So this gives us more options, like we can do healing abilities, so we can set up a cure potentially in the next stream. We could, Rob, we could set up the HP bars to be only on a specific thing, or we might want to go with HP bars being how we show the health of the enemies instead of having it on this bottom UI. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure whether or not we'll keep continuing to go directly down the reproduction of a Final Fantasy VI game, or if at some point we'll diverge, but for now, this has been a great way of like at least getting stuff up and running, but when we move forward, we might want to change it, who knows. Oh, that was a cool miss! Alright, so then, yeah, we'll get more ability types, probably try and do more ability type stuff. We'll try and set up maybe heals, maybe inflicting a status effect on an enemy. Maybe we'll try some of that stuff. I brought in a lot of the status effect stuff like poison, slow, a lot of these different types of modifiers, which we could try stuff like haste pretty easily with our system. It'll have to be changed because we're not using CTR from like a tactics game, but we could change to modify how fast our bars grow or how fast our bars fill before we get another action. And then importing stats from design data is actually a pretty small effect, but we'll want to do that in the future at some point because right now all of our stats are kind of being hard-coded. We probably want to bring that in from design data, and we probably also want to hook it up to be based on level. For now, though, I think that's where we're going to have to call it. I mean, this is a long stream, but it's me finessing over some very fundamental things. Like the pooling system is going to determine how much extra work we have to do in the future, and like setting it up right versus wrong it's worth spending some time on. But we've got this text flying off, we've got pooling, we've got converting stuff from world space to screen space. Again, making good progress. All right. For now, though, well, okay, sorry. First, thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys coming in, talking, chatting. Some people I haven't seen before, or at least who haven't spoken up before, thanks for saying hello. Thanks for stopping by. But for now, this is going to be Tolhi signing out. Later, guys.